moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen. Host disabled screen sharing. Huh. Hold on. Hold on a second. They gave me a code and I forgot to write it down.
No problem at all.
Sweet. Emily. Whoa, where is it? Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, I guess I had to change that up with the new password. Here we go. All right. Can you guys see my screen? All right. So this is a class I normally host in person a few times a year. With COVID, we are in Zoom world. So I'm going to just go through. Feel free to just wave at me if you guys have any questions, and I can open up the screen so that way we can make sure that we answer everybody's questions. So my name is Kristin. I am on the events committee, which we couldn't do any of our events this year. So I am going to go through what I use as personal safety tips while going through real estate. I've had some interesting experiences, so if I can help people learn, how to be a little bit, taking extra precautions, I'm all about it. So with open houses, what I like to do is I like to get there, 30 minutes early, so that way I can get all my signs out. And then what I do is as soon as I arrive, I'll lock the door behind me while I go throughout the house and turn on lights. I also, when I start the open house, I like to be by the front door, so that way I can gather everybody's information up front. It helps you collect information faster. But then when people are like saying, hey, what about this, dining room, table or whatever, or how do you open up this? If I can call out to them, great. If I can tag team with another realtor, then awesome. But if they have additional questions, I don't like to leave the front door. And there's a reason why. There's a lot of times that people will come in separately when they want to try to, rob a home during an open house or whatnot. Now, does it happen in Salt Lake? Not very often, but we do hear those national stories. So this is what we've put together to cover that. So I always stay up at the front door, and when they ask questions, I'll be like, you know what, that's a really good question. Let me get your name and number if I didn't already get it, so that way I can call you back after the open house. That way you never leave your position at the front door. And I also like kind of keep a reminder of who's coming in and leaving, so that way I know. Now with COVID open house, it's pretty easy because I only allow one to two groups in at a time, depending on the size of the house. I have a open house coming up tomorrow in Liberty Wells, for example. I'm only going to allow one group through at a time, just so that way I can make sure that they feel comfortable while they're taking their time looking at the house. But then I can also sanitize and make sure that they're wearing masks throughout the home. So this kind of simplifies things. So I'll just touch base about that in and out. But I'm also going to talk to you guys as if COVID isn't happening. So that way we can make sure that we stay in line with, here's some tips and tricks that are going to help you after next summer, after we have a vaccine out there. So what I like to do is, I am always watchful about who enters in, and I want to make sure that I'm not alone. I never assume that I'm alone when I'm closing up. So I do the same thing. I lock the front door, and then I go to the furthest room of the house, like in the basement, and then start turning off lights and checking for things. I'll even check, I'm checking for windows sometimes, I'm checking the doors, and I'm also checking to see if there's anybody in the closet. Now with COVID, it's easy because I open up all the closet doors so people don't have to touch the door handles. So it's a lot easier for me to close it up. But if somebody really wants to come back after you're done with the open house, especially if your clients have a lot of nice stuff that are in the pictures, it's just always nice to take the extra precaution. I also have my clients remove any, really expensive items if they have jewelry that they're worried about, and more importantly, prescription drugs. Make sure that they're not in the house during the open house. So if they have animals and whatnot, I'm like, hey man, I would take your animals, and I would take your, your most expensive jewelry and your prescription drugs when you go to your, family member's house or whatever when they're driving around. So that way it's just, it's the added peace of mind. When I'm doing large open houses, I absolutely have another realtor help me. So then that way we can tag team when people come in, and what we'll do is I'll take this group, you take the next. And then if they get stuck talking to somebody, but then I'm free, I take the next person. Then that way you're collecting everybody's information, who their agent is, and if they're unrepresented, you're getting their information. So that's,
Can I ask a quick question?
yeah.
When you do double agent, is there like a specific location that you like to have the second agent at? Like, is there kind of two general areas that are good to man, like the front door and?
Yeah, so it all depends on the house. What I do is sometimes I'll have somebody out front, like outside, if it's a beautiful day, kind of warming people up, or that we're both in the same living room space, or that I'm in the front room and they're in the kitchen. It all depends on the layout and how much room you have available, but you can definitely get creative with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so that's my first slide about open houses. And then let's see here. And I do this whenever I'm at any home. If I'm going up to an open house or I'm starting to show homes. I'm originally from Phoenix, which is a really large city. So I'm always like, I'm checking to see how obvious I can make it. I park in a very obvious space. I don't want to be hidden from the street. So I want to make sure that if I'm parking somewhere and it's starting to get dark, that it's well lit. People can see my car, can see me come in and out of it. Because the other thing is, also don't want to get blocked in a driveway if you're in a sketchy area. When I'm also checking my surroundings, I'm looking around to see who's out and about while I'm walking up to the house. So that way I can see, is there a potential risk? Is there somebody, walking by? Is the neighborhood very loud and, there's just a lot of kids? Or is there's a guy that's kind of looming around the house? That we see it all when we start really getting into showing houses. So I like to see what's going on. So that way when I'm leaving, I'm looking for that sketchy guy. I'm looking to see what about that environment has changed. So that way, if somebody's loitering around and hanging out, just like kind of walking on the street. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I'll wait for them. They're, like my safety and the safety of my clients, I'm not going to make it obvious, but I'm just going to be like pointing out additional features in the home. So that way my clients don't see that I'm actually kind of waiting for that guy to pass. If it's just me and, another female, or, somebody that doesn't feel confident in themselves, but if I've got a couple, then that means we got 3 or 4 people with us. I'm not too worried about the one person that's loitering outside. But other things that I don't do, especially when I'm in different neighborhoods, is I don't sit in my car in front of the house after showings and sit there and text. I'd rather, if I need to do some home office items in my car, I'll go to a grocery store or something a little bit more. There's more people around me to do some of that, because you just never know who's going to come up behind you. And it's crazy how many stories have come out. Every time I do this class, somebody has an example of a time where they went to go show a home and they got to meet Mr. Creepy. So, either it's like it's a sign call and that person turns out to be really weird, or there's somebody loitering. So it's just really good for us to be a little bit more aware of our environment. So the other thing I do is, when I walk into the house, even though I know it's vacant, I always knock or ring the doorbell. I make sure it's loud enough. And then when I open up the door, I always yell, "Hello, Realtor." And the reason why I do that is because a lot of times, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a house where there were people sleeping or people taking a shower. I have actually done an open house where there was, I guess, a couple of young construction guys working that were renting that space. And they evidently didn't get the message from the realtor or whatnot. I had one of the construction guy, and he was in his young 20s, hiding in a closet. So that was kind of surprising that I didn't think anybody was home, and there he was hiding in the closet. So I always yell out, "Hello, realtor," because if somebody's in that house and they're awake and they can hear you, they'll call back out. The other thing is, if for some reason you have somebody that is in a home that they know is vacant and they're kind of taking shelter there, they'll hear you and they're going to find the closest exit, because they don't want to be found either. So it's just always good to do. So that way you make your presence known, and it's a safe, welcoming environment for your clients too. And I always lock the door behind me. It's a old Phoenix trait for me. But if I'm walking in a house and it's just me and one other person, I've actually had real estate agents tell me during this class that they'll leave the key in the front door, so that way they don't lose the key. And I'm like, man, I would much rather take the key, put it in my pocket, and lock that door so I know that there's nobody coming in behind me. So just some tricks that I think might be helpful. I try to avoid nighttime showings. Again, if I've got a family and I know that they're pretty well with it, then I feel more comfortable doing nighttime showings. But if at all possible, it's kind of hard for us to avoid nighttime showings in the wintertime because it starts setting around 4:30. But, like, if you can avoid it, especially when you're in different types of neighborhoods. And when you're showing a home, one thing that I have learned to be very helpful, and it's also very respectful for you to do with your client. But I have my client walk in front of me, like I'll open the door and I'll say, "After you." So then that way I'm not leading them, that I'm back here and they're in front here. Especially if you're taking a sign call, you don't know that person from Adam. They have just simply called you off of one of your open house signs and they want to see the home. So if you're gesturing for them to go in front of you, they can't do any tricky moves, right? So like you can also like talk to them about, "Hey, and the kitchen is just down that hallway, just proceed forward," and then you're behind them the entire time. So what I also like to do is have an out. So if I'm really busy and I'm showing a ton of homes to a ton of strangers, now again, a lot of these tips, if they're friends of yours, you don't have to worry about them, right? But I just always like to be take the added precautions to be safe. So like I will tell other agents that I'm showing homes. My like I'll call my boyfriend or just text him and say, "Hey, I'm showing these 5 homes. I'm starting at this time and I'll be done at this time." So he knows that if I don't contact him afterwards, he'll be like, "Hey, are you cool? Are you good?" But I've also had like an open, like I had a listing and it was downtown. It wasn't too bad of a neighborhood, but there was some, there was a lot of homeless people in that area. And I got a sign call and I felt really strange. So I called my partner and I was just like, I'm just going to stay on the phone with you while I'm showing this house. And perfectly fine. Like we take added precautions, and you have to have a buddy in real estate that you can do that for. The productivity coach, Coach Dave, him and I buddy up a lot whenever I'm doing stuff out in the field. And I'll just be like, hey man, just letting you know. And a lot of times I'll also have new agents shadow me if I have a lot of activity going on. So then that way it's just good to know. It's good to know that somebody that knows you, that's going to be good about following up, knows what you're doing and when. And if you are ever in doubt, follow that gut instinct, because you're never going to be wrong. So, I've had gut instincts where I've just had somebody shadow me, and it was the best thing because that person had really weird energy. So trust your gut. Your gut is never going to be wrong when you're dealing with the general public. And unfortunately, we have so many people moving here. So many people see that Utah is a place of opportunity that, it's just time for us to be a little bit careful. Do you guys have any questions about that? Pretty good? Cool. Thanks, Mark. I like it. All right. So with my sellers, there's a lot of information here. I like to be protective of my sellers. So a lot of times I'm going to tell them that, hey, not all agents and not all buyers and sellers are going to say are who they say they are. There's a lot of opportunity. They say that Utah is very prime for people to take advantage of people, right? We've got identity fraud, we've got theft on the rise, as predators come in all shapes and sizes. So, like I tell my clients, hey, if there's another agent talking to you, or if there's a buyer who comes walking by and is like, hey, can I see your house? Don't let them in. What I do is I educate my clients beforehand that, hey, if somebody's coming up to you and wants to see your house, tell them that's great. Let me give you my agent's number, or let me call them right now, so that way we can make an appointment so you can do that. And I also tell my clients, don't ever leave any personal information out at home. Like, it's really difficult right now because you have everybody working from home these days. But make sure that your mail's not out around, because then they can grab it pretty easily. If you have your tablet, anything that they can easily pocket, I just ask them to always put it away. Just because I just don't want anything being taken off. And surprisingly, it happens a lot. Luckily it hasn't happened at any of my houses, but you just never know. So it's just good to be aware. Also, boxes. If you have a bunch of boxes out front, that's also a sign that you're moving. I've actually had this happen to me where I was moving from Phoenix to Salt Lake, and we didn't have a good enough buddy system of bringing boxes in and out. And somebody straight up took boxes off of the moving truck. I mean, we were only gone maybe a minute or two, but we had 3 boxes stolen. So they were watching us, and I had no idea that they were doing it. So, what I like to do is, have them cut the boxes down and just take them out during recycling, until you got everything in and whatnot. It's just good to not show that you guys there's signs of you moving out. And so you can do it in one fell swoop. Does that make sense? Cool. So what we set up last year is a prospect identification form at the office. So if you guys are ever in doubt, know that the front desk always has one of those forms. So if you want, feel free to grab one, have Emily email you one. It just helps you collect information on new clients, especially when you meet them off the street. So if you want to also have them, granted, it's COVID, right? So some of this may go, maybe I don't want to do this right now, but you can always meet them at the office and then have them fill out the form, and then you can get a copy of their driver's license and attach it to that form. If you ever are uncomfortable and you meet that person there, know that we have a little trigger in the office. The trigger word is red file. So if you ever feel uncomfortable, you can call the front desk and say, hey, I need to get something out of the red file. Then that way they can start asking you questions and you can answer in an obscure way, and they'll ask you if you need police there. So That's something that we created as a little safety tip. We also do, when it's not COVID season, we also do a number of basic self-defense courses. So then that way, if you want to know how to just get yourself, the best thing is whenever you're in a threatening situation, get out of it as much as possible. Don't try to, defend yourself with an attacker. If there's a way for you to get out, you just simply get out. But if you need, but we also do those self-defense classes so you know that you can block somebody and then get out. Okay. So we just like to be proactive in regards to realtor safety, because you hear all of the stories across the national news, and we simply just don't want any of our agents experiencing any of that.
I have a question, if you don't
Yeah.
mind me asking.
Go for it.
So I did my first open house with the Stern team last week, and it was a larger house. It was about 4,100 square feet, and so we determined that we'd wanted about 3 people in at a time. Anyway, while they were coming in at the very beginning, before we had determined everything, we had a guy that came in. We were collecting names and everything. He wouldn't wear a mask. He wouldn't provide his name. And he just kind of pushed his way through. And obviously this was me and my partner's first open house. And so
Yeah.
after, he left, we were like, well, what should we have done? Is it within our rights to say, no, you're not allowed to be in here? You're gonna have to find a realtor. I mean, how would you have handled that? And yeah.
So I will be honest with you. I am probably one of the more stern, and I'm not using stern as a pun, but I am very firm about COVID and masks. And I would have probably told him that he cannot come through. State mandates require masks, and if he's unable to supply that information, you can refuse them to come in.
Okay.
You got to protect your safety. And if you're having more than one set of people through, do you really want him around other potential clients? And what's he going to,
Right.
how is he going to react?
Right. And I guess that was the concern too, is like, how was he going to rest? Because it was very rude. And I knew if we were going to address it more, it was going to turn into a confrontational situation of like, please leave, or, you know what I mean? And so it was just something I hadn't thought of before. So I was just kind of curious on how to handle that. But
well, and that's the thing. We are going to, hey, Shane, I was just talking about our self-defense class. Here, I'm going to unmute you. So that way you can
unmute. Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. So I was just talking about how we were doing our self-defense classes when we don't have, COVID around us. So I've been teaching this class as if, here are the standard protocols that we typically use. And then here's stuff that kind of doesn't apply because there's COVID, but it's still good stuff to do. So one of the class members is mentioning that they had somebody that refused to give information, refused to give a mask, and just pushed himself through. And I told her, if there's somebody like that and you've got other people coming through, I would just ask him to schedule a time for a private showing. So then that way he's not taking up all that space, and he's not wearing a mask because there's the state mandate that requires it now.
Right.
But, we will be setting up probably by next summer, after the vaccines are kind of rolled out and we don't have so much of an issue with the COVID counts. We will set up a new self-defense class. And I recommend that people take it because it's just good to know. You always want to avoid a situation. You always want to get out of a situation. Do not try to stick in a situation with an aggressive person.
Yeah.
So, so this also brings up another a situation that I had experience with that Shane was kind enough to assist me with, is that I had a client who wanted me to assist them in purchasing a home, and they just kept, they were starting to get inappropriate with their messages and how they were approaching me and being forward. And, I did not let it get out of hand. I kind of put my foot down and I just said, hey, you know what? I'm here to assist you with your real estate needs. He was trying to, have innuendos with me, and I just wasn't going to have it. So I just set down my boundaries immediately. If there is a client who's making you feel uncomfortable in regards to that situation, I had to fire this guy like 3 times, and I referred him to other agents, but he just kept coming back to me. So, with those types of people, you definitely want to, again, stand your ground. Do not let it go out of hand and tell them what you will or will not put up with. And if you're experiencing somebody that's treating you like that, guy or girl, it does not matter. Don't feel like you have to deal with that on your own. There are a lot of agents in our office that will always be there to stand up for you, to help you with advice if you're dealing with somebody, be it if they're aggressive, if there's sexual innuendos, if there's any of that. We want you to be comfortable. So call the front desk, talk to Emily, talk to Shauna, talk to Coach Dave. Shane and I'm not in the office right now, but I used to be in the office every day. So, and I always had my door open. So just know that there are so many experienced agents in the office that will want to talk to you and want to help you. And we were with my guy, we were doing screenings at the front door. So if some people were asking for me, I had to, bless you. That if somebody was asking for me, they had to give their name before they would let him go back. So that guy, I had to deal with him for about 3 months. And then it was interesting. He was quiet for about 8 months, and then he tried back up again, and I just shut him right back down. He was going after it for a whole other reason and not for real estate. So guy had money, but I wasn't about to allow anybody to treat me that way. So if I'm experiencing it, other people are too. I'm going to open up the board so that way we can all, be able to just ask any questions, have additional dialogue. Melanie, you had a very good life experience. So is there anything else that you guys have questions about that we can help answer?
So let's say your potential client that comes through gets really out of hand. What do you do at that point?
During an open house or just in general?
During an open house.
What I like to do is just I'll diffuse them, and I'll just be like, hey, I understand that you have questions, that you might be getting frustrated about this home, and not every home is meant for everybody, but this is my job. This is what I'm here to do, and I'm happy to assist you. I'll take down your name and number, and let's have a conversation after the open house. Just try to get him out. Try to get him away, because if he's feeding himself, then you already know that he has some type of anger issue, but you don't want him around potential clients. You want to get out of that situation as fast as you can and just say, hey, you know what? I understand that. I got you. I'd be happy to help you find another home or another realtor that can assist you with that. Let me just get your information. It doesn't have to be this house. It's not an end all be all for them to be in there. A lot of times when you have angry people that are walking through that open house, they may just be neighbors, right? Or they may just be looking to start stuff. There are people that actually look for that. So just try to diffuse it as much as possible, get their information, and tell them that you can talk to them after. And if that doesn't end, then just be like, look, man, this is my job. This is my profession. I've got a whole lot of other clients in here that are wanting to come through this house. I have no problems calling the police if we need to. Please leave. Jane, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you already probably went over like exits and stuff like that. I mean, just in case something were to escalate, beyond what you want to handle, then, refer to the exits that are behind you or to the side of you or whatever, just so he's not blocking the exit of some sort if it does get to that point. But, 99 or 95% of encounters that I have are pretty much all de-escalation stuff.
Yep.
So it's like it's taking a guy that's super, super pissed off and bringing them back down to kind of reality, so you can at least have a conversation with them. I mean, I can kind of give you one example. I was doing an open house, and I put a sign up on a guy's yard, and I was running late, so I didn't have time to knock on the door like I normally do and ask to use his, park strip. And so he brought his sign back, and he was pretty pissed that my sign was in his yard. So, trying to calm him down a little bit. I had a house full of people, and I just standing by the doorway, kind of walked him out a little bit so I could talk to him away from people. And then, he obviously calmed down, after I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I didn't know, normally knock on people's doors, but like I was running super late." So he was super cool, but after that, but yeah, he was upset.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen very often, right?
No,
It's like the
no.
one in 100 chance that you'll experience that, but there are people that are just very confrontational. But again, get yourself out of that situation, get yourself out of that environment as much as you can. If you can get them out, I think that's a great way to do it. And I usually will put up at least 80% of my signs out in the road instead of on side, like park strips, just so I don't ever have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm like, nope. I'll put it on the street, and then that way people have to drive around my sign. Oh.
Right. And that's the best place to put them, really.
So
I've got a question. I've had a couple of listings earlier this year helping investors sell, and so they were all vacant.
Yeah.
I am now going to be doing one that's actually tenant occupied. And so I was trying to go back to my bold class earlier this year and remember where I would have saved the checklist for having like a touchless system for people to come in and out through showings. Do you happen to have one of those, or have any recommendations? Or
well, it's really based off of your preference. There are agents that have a sign-in sheet, that they like to have. For me personally, I like to be front and center, and I try to screen everybody before I let them come through. And I just have my phone there, and I'll have my notes on my phone. I'll get their first name, last name, who their agent is, and if they don't have an agent, just be like, I like to be green friendly, so I like to email out copies of listings. What's your email address, so that way I can get that from you?
thank you. Well, and also I was kind of considering, like, as you had mentioned, have the closet doors opened, things like that, so that people aren't having to touch common surfaces. Like, what are some of those little nitty gritties that I should be considering and communicating to the tenants to make sure that,
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, especially with us having COVID counts on the rise. So with my listing right now, what I do is I ask them to turn on all of the lights, and I ask them to open up the closet doors. And if there's like a popular pantry or something, like just having those open just a tad. So then that way people can look in without having to touch anything. And then in the realtor notes on showing time, I ask them to keep the lights on. So then that way, if you have back-to-back showings, they keep everything on, because it's our habit to want to turn off everything to save on, the seller's electricity bill. But that's how I personally do it. I also have, a sign by the front door. I have shoe booties, and I hang up some masks so that way people understand. And I have COVID policies written within my listing, just saying, hey, if your clients are presenting signs, do not show the home. We're happy to set up a virtual tour for them. I'm just trying to always figure out new ways to do it. I will do little videos, and here's the thing, the pictures, we pay for pictures and whatnot. The videos can get really costly. So for me, even if I just have a video off of my iPhone, I feel like that's still better than anything. And virtual tours are really good. You can schedule those. I schedule a virtual tour with my open houses. So that way, if somebody wants to see the home, I can walk them through it at that time too.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. When you say you put that actually on your listing, and do you put that in the public remarks or in the agent remarks?
About my COVID policies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're in my notes. I have an active listing. The address is 607 East Bryan Avenue, and my last name is spelled Buta. So just go on there. I've got an entire paragraph. You can use it if you like.
Oh, thank you so much.
You bet. Hey, you know what? The thing is if we're all working together in the same community and we're keeping our clients safe and you're keeping my clients safe, we can reduce the count. So
Totally. No, and thanks. Well, and we've kind of been like talking about the listing for a while, but just had the conversation with the seller and they're like, let's list it this week. And I'm going, well, I've got some pictures. I'd like to get some better. Anyways, it was just kind of like drinking from the fire hose real quick so I'm like, we're going to try and list on Wednesday or Thursday. So what do I need to be thinking of for Friday
Yeah.
night and Saturday showings? So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm covering for Coach Dave this week. So if there's anything that you need help with, I'm just a call away.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. Anyone else have questions? Well, my favorite color is polka dot. Well, you guys feel free to reach out at any time if there's anything that I can do for you. If
Thank you.
yeah, you bet. If that's all you guys need, just feel free. You can always get my number from the front desk. So, feel free to shoot a text or give me a call. No question is a stupid question. Don't ever hesitate, okay?
Kristin, could you mention that address one more time, please?
Yeah, 607 East Bryan Avenue.
Thank
It's
you.
in Liberty Wells. It's really cute. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 530.
And you're welcome to sell it.
Buyers. Jamie buyers.
Mm.
All right, guys, I'm going to drop off. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And Shane, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. Very
Yeah, you
much
bet.
appreciate it.
You
Thanks,
guys have a
Kristin.
great one.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye-bye.